Hello, and welcome to episode number 140 of WrestleRotica, the podcast that combines wrestling with erotica. This week we have two stories to share with you. The first story is entitled, What's Gotten Into You? In this story, Charlotte and Becky Lynch have been on a long and grueling tour. As a result, they have not had an opportunity to spend much time together. When they finally get an off day, Becky can barely contain herself around her girlfriend. The second story is entitled, Who Needs Men When You Have a Queen? Charlotte Flair has a secret that she wants to desperately reveal to her best friend Becky Lynch. Charlotte wants Becky to know that she prefers the company of women, and especially has feelings for Becky. Becky is willing to allow her best friend to indulge in these fantasies. Without further ado, let's get to this week's stories. This story is entitled, What's Gotten Into You? And it was written by Bexcellent Alloy. Becky Lynch was not a patient person. She hated slow drivers. She hated slow walking. She hated waiting to be discovered and valued on her show. But Becky Lynch took matters into her own hands whenever possible. It is how she was the first woman drafted to SmackDown Live.
Mick, we're all aware of your weird fascination with the women, but I think you missed out on the best woman superstar, which is who we're going to pick right now. And that's the last kicker, Becky Lynch!
And how she was the first woman to hold the SmackDown Women's title. It was how she was part of the first Raw Women's Championship match at WrestleMania 31, and how the crowd was chanting her name when she debuted in NXT all those years ago. And it was how she was going to win her very own spotlighted WrestleMania moment, whether Vincent liked it or not. Yet some things were out of her control. Take, for example, shopping with her girlfriend Charlotte. Becky loved Charlotte. She loved shopping. And she loved shopping with Charlotte. They were about the same size as far as most clothes went, so one of them clothes shopping meant both of them shopping. And far be it for Becky to turn down new clothes or leather jackets. No, it wasn't the shopping that Becky hated. It was that Charlotte was a toucher, which was normally okay. Becky amused herself with a smile, but in this instance, it meant that any store, regardless of product, was an hour-and-a-half adventure at minimum. Every item must be touched, looked at, and otherwise critiqued. Oftentimes, Becky would send Charlotte shopping on her own and meet up in the food court in a few hours. It allowed Charlotte to shop at her own pace and delve into her wonderment, and Becky to graze and leave stores as she pleased. But today was different. They had just done 16 days straight of shows, which meant no time for anything other than sleeping and trying to eat something as you ran from the hotel to the venue and the venue back to the hotel. It meant 16 days of bumps and bruises and promos. But most importantly for Becky, it meant 16 days of no sex.
Fuck that noise.
As Charlotte and Becky crawled into bed the night prior, Becky felt a familiar burning in her thighs. But a 20-hour day got the best of them, and so when she woke up, she knew that Charlotte would want to go shopping. It was how she reacclimated to the real world. Becky knew that, and she also knew she wasn't going to wait until sundown to do something about her aches. Charlotte walked mindlessly around the store, picking up every knickknack she could touch. Becky's lips pulled into a hungry snarl as Charlotte bent down to look at something gold and sparkly. Charlotte had no way of knowing Becky's intentions, yet wore Becky's favorite jeans. The jeans that hugged the curves of her girlfriend's ass and thighs so perfectly. Becky literally snapped her teeth together, yearning so badly for a bite. Charlotte stood upright and looked at her girlfriend, flashing a blinding smile. Becky smiled back on instinct. Charlotte's smile was warm and comforting, like a spring sun. It was the smell of fresh-cut grass on a clear summer day. It was the reason that the moon hung high in the sky. Becky looked over her shoulders. Early as it was still, there wasn't a lot of people in the mall. As Charlotte began to walk into the main aisle, Becky grabbed a handful of ass and squeezed, trying to push back the feelings bubbling to the surface. Charlotte snapped her head over her shoulder and shot Becky a dirty look, but the smirk on her lips betrayed her. Yes, Rebecca? It's Miss Quinn if you're nasty. Charlotte pursed her lips, trying to hide her smile as she walked to the next aisle, a little more slowly. Becky slowed her movements, trying to pretend being strapped didn't exacerbate her desires. The more the silicone pushed at her jeans, the more she wanted to throw Charlotte on the floor and take her there. Instead, Becky stood just behind Charlotte, so she wasn't touching her. As Charlotte meandered, losing herself in the world of retail, Becky lightly trailed her fingertips up Charlotte's outer thigh. Charlotte pressed herself into Becky and pretended not to otherwise notice, until Becky's fingers wandered under Charlotte's shirt and near her waistline. Charlotte's breath caught as she sunk into Becky's body before pulling away and whipping around. Ma'am, Charlotte smirked. There was less than an inch between them as Becky looked up and sneered at her girlfriend. You got something to say, princess? Charlotte drew a jagged breath through her nose and tried not to chew on the corner of her lip. Becky's grin widened. That was a sure tell. What's gotten into you? Charlotte barely whispered. Becky brushed her lips across Charlotte's and smiled as she whined for more contact. She grabbed Charlotte's hand and grazed it across the bulge in her own jeans while pulling at her ear with her teeth. Nothing, but I can get something into you if you say the word. Charlotte's entire body shuddered. She vice-grip locked her hand with Becky's and charged towards the bathroom, slowing down only to smile at one of the workers. The door had barely closed before Becky pulled Charlotte into her, aggressively smashing their lips together. Their hands roamed with a burning need, grabbing at the other in between panting. Becky pulled Charlotte's legs around her waist and slammed her against the door. Okay? Shut up and fuck me. Charlotte was rarely so bold. Becky clawed at her, trying desperately to release more of her skin. Charlotte bucked wildly, grinding her hips into Becky's cock. Becky dropped Charlotte's legs, frantically clawing at her own belt. Their lips never missed a beat as the metal from the buckles clanged in the empty bathroom. Becky smiled as Charlotte huffed, her too tight jeans not wanting to release past her thighs. Stupid jeans ruining the moment! Stupid jeans reminding me why I love you. Leg up. Charlotte's huffs turned into a grin as she wrapped one leg around Becky's waist. She ripped Charlotte's boot off and sunk to her knees as she exposed her girlfriend's thighs. Charlotte hypnotized Becky and forced her greedy mouth to take over. Becky slowly slid the tip of her tongue toward Charlotte's clit, gathering as much of her juices as she could. Charlotte shuddered and moaned while grabbing a handful of hair and jerking her hips towards Becky's mouth. Becky pushed Charlotte flat against the door, keeping her mouth just slightly out of Charlotte's path. Charlotte whined in protest, bucking her hips as widely as she could. Becky pushed harder against Charlotte's core. What's the matter, princess? Afraid daddy's gonna leave a good girl hanging? God, Becky, please! I need you! You need... who? The word rested on Charlotte's lips. Becky circled the tip of her tongue around Charlotte's clit before sucking on it for just a second and backing off. Who, princess? Daddy! I need my daddy to fuck me! Oh God, please fuck me! Becky didn't need another invite. She dove in, the combination of Charlotte's scent and taste making her dizzy. Charlotte grabbed 2 handfuls of hair as Becky widely lapped at her clit, making sure the wide part of her tongue was focused on it always. Becky clawed at Charlotte's thighs as she devoured Charlotte like she'd never eaten anything of substance before. Daddy, I need your cock, please. Becky clawed at the buttons of her jeans and ripped her cock from its harness. She pumped slowly, at first, letting Charlotte get used to the rhythm. Becky watched Charlotte's face and took a bite of her thighs while fucking her deeper. Charlotte's skin was so soft and sweet, but Becky missed the taste of her. Fuck, Becky, you're gonna make me come! Becky kept her lips inches from Charlotte's clit. Who is gonna make you come? Charlotte's hips bucked again. Becky! God, please! Becky stopped fucking her entirely. Who? Fuck, Daddy! Let me come on your face, please! Once again, Becky dove in, using the wildest part of her tongue to lap at Charlotte's clit, while fucking her harder with every thrust. Becky was sure that seconds later, Charlotte's knuckles were white, with her orange locks tightly bound in her fingers. Don't stop! Please don't stop, Daddy! Charlotte's moans were a true tell, as Becky threw her cock and let her tongue lap up all of her girlfriend's cum. Charlotte bucked and moaned as Becky's tongue slowed, bringing her down gently. She shuddered and sunk down, as Becky removed herself from her girlfriend's vagina and held her upright. There was something about the way Charlotte always wanted to taste herself on Becky's lips that sent a shiver down her spine. Becky, Charlotte said weakly, as Becky peppered her neck with kisses. Yes, sunshine? Why, for what? Charlotte couldn't get her words out between her panting. Hey, don't blame me. Becky pulled away and picked up her cock off the tile, holding it in front of Charlotte's face before fighting it back into its harness. You're the one that's gotten something into you. The end. This story is entitled, Who Needs Men When You Have a Queen? And it was written by WoWF member, The Masked Stranger. Charlotte Flair was dominant. She was a 5-time women's champion and the last ever Divas champion. But she had a secret, and she was tired of keeping it, and she knew only one person she could talk to. That was her best friend, and the fiery last kicker, Becky Lynch, because she knew she would understand. Backstage after SmackDown Live, Becky and Charlotte were enjoying a nice post-show shower. Hey Char, you mind sharing that soap? I forgot mine. Becky asks as the hot water shoots down onto her body. Charlotte just nodded as she bit her lip, resisting her urge, and handing the tanned Irish beauty the bar of soap. Charlotte can't help but watch Becky. She locks on as Becky slowly runs the lathered up soap all over her body. Even covered in suds, Charlotte knows Becky has an A+ body. Her tits an amazing size, fitting Becky's frame perfectly. She couldn't help but think about how tasty Becky had to be. Her juices had to taste like the finest honey on the planet.
Oh, they took the honey with them.
Did I miss a spot? Charlotte here, snapping her out of the trance she was in. No, I think you're nice and soapy. Charlotte says with a giggle as she pulls down the shower and shoots her with a warm jet of water. Hey, watch it! Becky says that she does the same thing, as the two just horse around in the shower until someone else chimes in. Hey ladies, get a room! Carmella says as they are interrupting her shower's end time. Sorry, champ. Charlotte says with a giggle, before winking at Becky. Oh yeah, we forgot the fabulous one doesn't like fun. Becky says as her and Charlotte turn the water to cold and point it at Mella. Ah! Mella says as the cold water blasts her and runs out of the showers. The queen and last kicker just laugh as Carmella and her big ass bounce out of the showers before leaving themselves. The two towel off and then begin getting dressed before the two of them have a quick chat. So Bex, what are your plans for the off day? Charlotte asks as she slides her jeans on over her panties. Nothing at all, queen. Just a girl's day in. Becky says as she pulls her Bailey shirt over her bra-clad breast. Well, I got my new place and we haven't had a tea party in it yet. So maybe you can come by and we can have a girl's day in over tea. Charlotte says, sad that Becky is covering up her amazing body. Sure, as long as you don't Irish up my tea like the last time. Becky giggles as she punches Charlotte in the arm. Don't worry, you're the only thing I like Irished up. Charlotte says as she punches her back. The two then stand up and start wrestling around in the locker room until Becky takes Charlotte down with a double leg, mounting her. Alright, I give! Charlotte says, though she doesn't want Becky to get off of her. She resists the urge to pull Becky in and plant a kiss on her full lips. The two leave the arena and get in separate cars and drive to the hotel, then go up to their own rooms. Becky spends her night texting her boyfriend, as Charlotte spends the night naked in bed, furiously rubbing her pussy, wishing Becky was doing it for her. Charlotte's secret was killing her on the inside. Yes, she knew nothing was wrong with her urges, nothing was wrong with loving ladies, but she didn't know how to tell anyone, and it was building up just like the pressure of her orgasm was building up. Finally, Charlotte felt the sweet embrace of orgasm as she falls asleep, thinking about Becky, and how she was going to tell her friend, not only she wants to be with women, but more importantly, she wants to be with her Irish Rose. The next day, the two set course to Charlotte's new spacious residency. All Charlotte can do is think about Becky. The two are sitting together, and Charlotte keeps sneaking glances at Becky's cleavage, as Beck rests her eyes for most of the plane ride. Charlotte can't stop thinking about slowly pulling down the straps of Becky's tight-fitting tank top. She can't stop thinking about just slowly rolling her tongue over her Irish lass nipples, as she moans out for more. The only thing that snaps Charlotte out of it when she feels her pussy begin to moisten, she quickly shuffles to the bathroom to dry herself before it leaves a wet spot on her jeans. Charlotte tries to get herself to put her feelings for Becky on the back burner, cause if not, she doesn't know what may happen. Charlotte hurries back to her seat when she hears that they are making their descent down to land.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly be landing. Please ensure your cabin bag is safely stowed with your laptop inside. Your tray table must be stowed, armrest down, and window blind open. You now need to be seated with your seatbelt fastened, ready for landing. Please help us by handing in any rubbish, newspapers, or magazines that you do not want to take with you. The toilets are no longer in service.
When she gets back, Becky is still sleeping. She looks so beautiful and peaceful. She doesn't want to awaken her. She tries to wait till they are in the process of landing, because Becky is out like a light. Charlotte then gently blows on the neck of Becky. This makes Becky shoot awake, and Charlotte plays it off like she was yawning. "Oh, I'm sorry, Bex. I didn't mean to yawn towards you," Charlotte says with a smile. "All good, Char. I needed to wake up anyway. I was having a weird dream," Becky says in that just woke up daze. Before Charlotte can ask her about the dream, they touch down, and the airplane madness begins, as everyone rushes to get their bags and carry-ons collected. The two manage to quickly exit the plane and make it to the check bag area to collect the bigger suitcases they have. Then, they manage to find a car service with a big SUV that can fit all their things, and they are off to Casa Charlotte. The two small talk to the driver for a little while. It is a fun conversation, but Charlotte is still stuck on her feelings. Before long, the two arrive at Charlotte's home and thank the driver and collect their bags and make their way up to the front door. "This place is massive!" Becky says, shocked at the sheer size of the home. "It looks bigger on the outside. Inside it's very comfy," Charlotte says, opening the door. Charlotte lets her friend enter first, as she watches her strut herself into the home, her yoga pants clad ass looking beyond amazing. "You have any woodland creatures or big strongmen who will pop out and take my bags in this castle?" Becky asks with a laugh, as the inside of the home is just as big as the outside. "No boys allowed, but the woodland creatures would be nice," Charlotte says as the two laugh together. "Do you want to go take a look around the house while I take your things upstairs and change?" Charlotte asks a still impressed Becky. "Sure, Blondie," Becky says with a giggle as she begins walking through the house. Charlotte quickly grabs her things and Becky's things and rushes upstairs. She drags the bags to her room and shuts the door tightly behind her. The pressure is just too much. The tension between her and Becky is heavy, even though Becky doesn't even know it's there. She quickly pulls off her shirt and dispatches her bra just as quickly. She unbuttons and unzips her jeans as if they were on fire, and she pulls off her wet panties and tosses them to the side. She quickly jumps onto her bed and opens the bottom drawer of her nightstand to find her stash of dildos and vibrators. She grabs a small vibrator that is shaped like an egg and turns it on, and slowly moves it towards her soaked pussy. She slowly moves the buzzing toy up and down her pussy, letting it send vibrations all through her body. She covers her mouth to muffle herself in case a loud moan or two slip out. It doesn't take long. She was already halfway to orgasm when she got to the room. It only takes a few minutes for her to reach a climax. She closes her eyes tight and imagines Becky between her legs, and that's all she needs for her knee-trembling orgasm. Even a quick surge of squirt shoots out. That's how you know it's good, Charlotte said to herself, removing the egg-shaped device from her sensitive area. In her post-orgasm cool-down, she chucks the tiny toy back into the drawer and pushes it, shutting it enough, but not all the way. She then strolls over to her closet and finds her favorite white dress, and she slips it on over herself. The fabric feels amazing over her bare breast and her ass. Now or never, she says as she looks in the mirror and takes a breath. Charlotte walks downstairs and re-enters the living room and sees no Becky. Just then she hears a catcall whistle and looks to the entrance to the kitchen and sees her red-headed friend. "I didn't think this was going to be a sexy tea time," Becky says with a laugh, making Charlotte blush. "Well, maybe you should go change while I get the tea ready," Charlotte says with a smile, still blushing. "I just may do that," Becky says with a smile. "Well, your suitcase is in the master bedroom upstairs," Charlotte says, entering the kitchen, and begins looking for her teacups and teapot. Becky climbs up the beautiful staircase and finds her bag and places it on the bed, and takes a seat on the bed. She pulls out some of the clothes, trying to find the best clothes she had packed when she looks at the mirror. "Oh, jeez! My hair's a mess!" Beck says as she looks for a hairbrush. She looked through every part of her bag, but she couldn't find one. She then sees the bottom drawer of the nightstand slightly open. Maybe she's got a brush in there. Becky says as she opens the drawer and gets a shock. Holy fuck! Becky says as she sees the drawer full of sex toys. She slowly pulls out the toys one by one and examines them from dildos of all sizes to vibrators, all different sizes. Charlotte likes to get freaky, Becky says with a laugh. She then focuses in on the small purple egg vibrator Charlotte was using earlier. She then turns it on and with a shock, she drops it and it vibrates its way down her chest and lands against her pussy. Becky wants to pull it away, but even through her jeans she can feel the vibration strong against her clit. Strong little thing, ain't ya? Becky says with a moan as she manages to turn off the toy and she manages to pull off her top and jeans, leaving her in her white bra and panties. She keeps looking through her bag, but she keeps looking over at the small little vibrator, and then it's too much for her to take. She slowly pulls down her panties, seeing a wet spot in them before turning back on the egg-shaped device. She takes a deep breath and then turns it on. She then places the top of the egg against the top of her pussy. The vibrator sends a big surge through Becky's body, and she lets out a hard moan. She then begins slowly moving it up and down her tight and clean-shaven pussy. Her pussy begins to rapidly moisten, and she lets out louder moans and moans. Fucking hell, this feels good. Becky moans out before biting her bottom lip. Becky gets lost in the lust she is feeling, and forgets all about the tea. What's taking her so long? Charlotte asks herself as the kettle whistles on the stove. Bex! You alright? Charlotte shouts as she pours the hot water into the cups, but no response. Charlotte gets nervous as she dunks the tea bag in her cup. Meanwhile, Becky is up in the master bedroom, letting the moans loose as the egg is getting the job done. This is going to be a good come. Becky thinks to herself as she can feel an orgasm heading her way. A few more minutes pass and Charlotte is concerned. She puts the teapot down and climbs up the stairs. Becky! She says down the hallway, but still, no answer. She gets closer and closer to the master bedroom and hears the buzzing sound. She hears the master bedroom door half open, and she hears a loud buzz, and an even louder moan.
Oh!
Charlotte peeks in and her jaw drops to the floor, and her eyes get huge. She watches as the Irish lass licker is going to town on her pussy with her favorite little vibrator. Tea is ready! Charlotte says as she swings open the door. Finally, Becky snaps out of her trance, and sees Charlotte at the door of the bed, and lets out a big yelp and drops the toy. Oh, hey, Charlotte, I was... Becky says stuttering, and her face blushing dark red. Charlotte moves Becky's suitcase off the bed, and turns off the toy, and puts it on the nightstand. So you, lonely? Or do you get kinky with your fellas? Becky says with a laugh, trying to lighten the mood, covering up her wet pussy. No! I use them on myself! I haven't felt the touch of a man in so long, and to be honest, I wouldn't want that. Charlotte says knowing it's now or never. Oh, come on, Char! Not all men are trashy. Becky says trying to find the root of the problem. It's not that it's... Charlotte tries to speak, but nothing comes out. 'Cause why, you can tell me. Becky says with a smile as she places her free hand on her shoulder. I've realized I prefer to be intimate with women, and when I use these toys I think about being with a woman. Charlotte says as she takes a pause, and then takes a main breath. Mainly, I think about you. Charlotte says as her face gets as red as Becky's. Charlotte! I had no idea you felt that way! Why didn't you tell me? Becky asks, getting closer to her. I didn't know how you would take it! Charlotte says with tears starting in her eyes. She begins to sob and cry before she feels Becky's soft hand on her chin. Becky then lifts her head up and pulls her lips to her own, and then the two begin kissing. Everything she was worried about washed away with that kiss. Worry, she and then the two break the kiss. Listen, Charlotte, you're my best friend, and I love you, and I want you happy. So if you want, You can live your fantasy, Becky says as she uncovers her wet pussy. But what about the tea? Charlotte asks, not thinking, just speaking. I think I got something you would like to taste a little more. Becky says as she slips her pinky, which has some of her pussy juices on it, into her mouth. Charlotte lightly sucks her best friend's juices off her pinky before sliding it out of her mouth and moaning. Do I taste good? Becky asks with a big smile. So good, Bex! Way better than I thought! Charlotte says, licking her lips, wanting more. Well then, I think I have a lot more where that came from. Becky says with a giggle. Charlotte looks down and takes a look at Becky's pussy, and she's in love with her. Becky is clean-shaven, and her pussy is nice and tight-looking as she watches a bit of juices dribble down. Charlotte then makes her way down and close to the tanned pussy of her Irish Rose. Charlotte feels the warmth coming from the pussy when she slides her tongue up and down Becky's slit. Becky lets out a big moan, and Charlotte lets out a moan as she keeps lapping up the juices from the hot Irish pussy in front of her. Charlotte slowly adds to her steady slurping of the hot pussy in front of her as she slips her index and middle finger into her pussy as well. Fuck, Char! This is so good! Becky moans out, loving this stimulation. Charlotte keeps going, sucking away as she is slamming 2 fingers into Beck's soaking wet pussy as she holds nothing back. Queen! I'm gonna come! Becky manages to moan out. Charlotte pulls her fingers out of Becky's pussy and then pulls Becky in close. She sticks her tongue out as far as it'll go and then begins wildly shaking her head left to right. Becky starts moaning and moaning loud. Her legs begin to shake. Then Charlotte hears a beautiful sound, the sound of Becky accepting the joys of sexual release and moaning even louder than all the rest.
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte feels a wild blast against her tongue, and she pulls her head away just in time to see another surge of squirt blast out of the perfect Irish pussy of Becky Lynch. Charlotte starts rubbing Becky's pussy to make sure she gets the most out of her climax. Becky just squeaks and moans as a few more quick bursts shoot from her pussy. A few moments later, Becky lets out a big moan and throws her head back, done with her orgasm. Charlotte wastes no time as she licks the juices off her lips and then the juices off of her fingers. Was that good? Charlotte asks as she enjoys the view of Becky on her bed. I might have to call up whoever else you did that to, because that was way too good. Becky says with a big smile as she sits up and signals for Charlotte to come in for a kiss. Charlotte wastes no time, and she presses her lips against Becky's, and the two moan as they kiss, loving the feeling. Becky breaks it and flashes another smile at Charlotte as she looks back over at the drawer of toys. What's next, Queen? Becky asks as if she is ready for more. Well, I think I have a toy you'll be more used to. Charlotte says as she climbs off the bed and heads to her drawer of toys. She pulls out a strap-on harness and slides it up over her pussy and gets a big smile across her face. She then digs through the drawer to find a few dildos that she can add to this appliance. Which one do you want, Bex? Charlotte asks, holding up 2 dildos. One dildo is big and thick, very realistic looking, and the other is a bright orange one that is a little less realistic, but would still get the job done.
Get her done.
More use too! These things are massive! Becky says as she looks at the 2 large dildos. I don't mess around. Charlotte says with a wink and a smile. I guess the flesh-colored one. Becky says, pointing to the thicker and more realistic one. Good choice. This is the one I like to use the most. Charlotte says as she secures the dildo into the harness. Charlotte then makes sure the strap-on is ready to go, giving it a few shakes to make sure it doesn't fall off. You look good like that, Char. Becky says, biting her lip. Charlotte just giggles and gets back on the bed, and then she tells Becky to move. Charlotte lays where Becky was laying, and Charlotte grabs the fake cock by the base and looks at Becky. How about you show me what you like doing to a cock? Charlotte says with a wink. Becky then catches her drift, and she moves in between the queen's toned legs. Becky then slowly begins sliding her tongue up and down the soft but still very firm dildo. This is a real strapping cock you got here, Becky says, making one of her famous puns. Only the best for my loyal subjects, Charlotte says with a big smile as Becky starts opening her mouth wide. Bex begins slowly bobbing up and down on the fake cock, taking every last inch of it with every suck. Charlotte looks at the saliva dripping down the cock, and hearing the loud and sexy gags only makes Charlotte hotter. You're a good little cocksucker, aren't you, Bex? Charlotte asks as she pulls the cock from Becky's mouth. That's what the lads tell me. Becky says with a giggle as spit dribbles down her chin. Open wide for me, Charlotte says as she grabs the base of the fake cock yet again. Becky does as the queen instructs, and Charlotte begins smacking the tip of the strap-on against Becky's tongue. The saliva bounces off her tongue with every smack of the dildo. Charlotte then bridges her hips upward and slides the cock down to the back of Becky's throat. After keeping it in her mouth for a few moments, Charlotte bridges down and gives Becky a big smile. Enough fooling around! I want to fuck that tight Irish pussy you got! Charlotte says, pulling Becky by the chin, all the way up to her lips. They share a kiss before Becky squats up and positions the soft, but yet very firm rubber cock against her slit. Becky takes her time, and slowly sliding down the cock, slipped with her own spit. She softly moans until all the dildo is deep into her pussy, and she lets out a loud moan.
Oh.
Bounce for me, Bex! Charlotte says with a wicked smile as she holds the strap-on secure. Becky takes her time and uses all the power in her toned and tanned Irish legs to power herself up and down the impressively large dildo. She keeps slowly moving up and down as she feels the fake cock stiffen up real nice inside a red-hot and extra wet pussy. Becky slowly increases the speed of her bouncing, but adds a new trick to it. She reaches her arms out and grab hold of Charlotte's big round tits and give them a squeeze with every bounce. Ah, queen! Fat queen! This toy you got, it's real nice! Becky moans, loving the sensation inside her. As good as the real thing! Charlotte moans out with a smirk. Charlotte is entranced by all of this, her BFF and lesbian wet dream, in her bed riding on her favorite fake cock. What more could she ask for? Just then Becky loses grip on Charlotte's large royal breast and falls forward, and the two lock lips as Becky never stops riding. Perfect. Charlotte thinks to herself. Her and Becky battle away at each other's tongues in this hot and heavy embrace. They finally break the kiss, and Becky returns to her vertical base and starts bouncing faster. Fuck yes, Becky! Bounce on it like you mean it! Charlotte shouts, very turned on by this. Becky just moans and softly swears under her breath as she bounces with great force and speed. Her lovely tits smack together as she rides the rubber cock. I'm so fucking wet! Oh my god! Becky moans out in a heavy Irish accent. Becky keeps bouncing as her pussy becomes even more soaked than before. She picks up some speed until something unexpected, she slides right off the dildo and falls onto her back. The two pause for a moment as they both hear, "You fucked up," chants in their head. The two break the silence with a wild laugh, this being too funny to leave alone. Told you I was really fucking wet, Becky says with a smile as she lays on her back, legs spread wide and pussy glistening with juices. Stay just like that, Charlotte manages to say as she sits up to her knees and makes her way forward toward Becky. My turn to show you what I can do, Charlotte says as she slides the strap-on dildo back into Becky's tight and very wet pussy. Oh yeah! Charlotte slowly thrusts her hips forward and back, slowly sliding in and out of Becky's pussy. Becky moans loudly and throws her head back. Charlotte quickly grabs Becky by the chin and makes it so she looks up at her. I want to look at your pretty face while I fuck this tight little pussy with my favorite toy, Charlotte says, looking into Becky's eyes. Yes, queen, Becky softly says back. Charlotte just smiles and then plants a long kiss onto Becky. Their soft lips feel so good pressed against each other, they both moan as they kiss. Charlotte then begins speeding up her thrusting as she hears the bottom of the dildo bump against Becky's wet pussy, making a loud smacking sound. Yes, Charlotte! Yes! Becky groans out, looking right into Charlotte's eyes, as Charlotte slams in and out of her pussy. Charlotte then starts going faster and faster, showing off how good she can work her hips. The thrust is the must! Becky squeaks out in between moans. I've done this before, Charlotte says with a giggle. Charlotte then wraps her arms tightly around Becky's legs and begins thrusting as hard and as fast as she can. Becky opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out, just moans. Charlotte bites her own lip, just looking down at the sight under her, trying not to scream, Becky, I love you, at the top of her lungs. Finally, Becky manages to compose herself enough to speak. Sure, you're gonna make me fucking come! Becky says in a loud whisper, but Charlotte heard it loud and clear. Charlotte wastes no time in turning her thrust all the way up to past 10 as she bucks away at Becky's pussy, waiting for her BFF to orgasm. Charlotte gets closer and closer to Becky's face and plants one last kiss on her lips. Fucking hell! Here it comes! Becky shouts as the two break the kiss. Charlotte slows down her thrusting and gives Becky pussy a rub with her fingers. Becky's eyes roll into the back of her head, and Charlotte pulls out and quickly gets her face down to Becky's pussy. She opens wide, and Becky lets out a loud moan, and a huge surge of squirt shoots out of her pussy, covering Charlotte's face. Charlotte quickly slides her fingers into Becky's pussy and manages to make her shoot a few more quick blasts out of her hot Irish pussy. Charlotte then slides her tongue over Becky's slit and makes sure she has no more squirts left in her. She can just enjoy the rest of her climax. Becky wraps her legs tightly around Charlotte's head as she shakes her legs, shaking for this orgasm. Finally, Becky stops shaking and lets out a long sigh of relief, that knee-clattering climax shaking her to the core. Charlotte sits up and then moves off of the bed and does a big stretch. Fuck, Charlotte! I haven't had a fuck like that since Finn! Becky says, exhausted pussy soaked, and the sheets also covered in her juices. Finn's pretty good, but Kathy knows how to make anyone happy.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Charlotte says with a wink. Nutty, naughty! Becky says with a laugh as she's stretched out on the bed. I think I'm ready for tea now. Becky says, rolling off the bed. Then let's go have some. Charlotte says as she follows Becky out of the door, strap on, still on. Maybe later I can fuck this ass. Charlotte says as she smacks Becky, tanned and toned ass cheeks, and watch it jiggle down the stairs. Tea first. I need to recharge. Becky says with a laugh. The two warmed back up the tea water and enjoyed a nice girls' day in. Charlotte felt a great weight off of her, and she felt like Becky wouldn't be a one-time thing. The end. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of WrestleRotica. We hope that you enjoyed this week's stories. As always, if you enjoyed this week's stories, please be sure to like, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Visit us elsewhere online, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and as always, our official website, WrestleRoticaPod.com. Thank you, and have a good week.